In this building, ABBA recorded their very first album, Ring Ring. But they also went into various other studios to record some of the songs. KMH in central Stockholm and outside at Europa Film Studios. Later on, they returned to Europa Film Studios to film the music video for Ring Ring. But that was when the four members were finally known and celebrated as one unity, ABBA. When the album was made, ABBA as a band didn't really exist yet. In fact, the story behind the album is quite fascinating. It was recorded over the period of 1 year, on and off, and for a while they didn't even realize that they were actually making an album. It was initially supposed to be Björn and Benny's second solo album, then an album together with Agneta and Frida, one half Swedish songs, the other half in English. But then directions changed again into what we have now. With all of this in mind, when I listen to the finished album, I am quite stunned at the quality. For the most part, the flow of songs is really good, and there are some incredibly beautiful melodies and catchy tunes. This album, in my personal opinion, is full of energy, of positive vibes and confidence. And of all the things they have done during this early period, this is arguably their most fascinating sound. Today, it is 50 years since the album came out. Let's explore the history, legacy, and the music of Ring Ring.
Won't you tell me, honey, how can I go on here without you?
Hey! So, last year, around this time, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of ABBA's first single together, People Need Love. This was, in retrospect, the start of their recording sessions for Ring Ring, the album that finally would have been released today, 50 years ago. That gives us an idea how long it all took. In today's video, we are briefly looking at the events leading to all of this, and then we will go chronologically through the recording sessions for Ring Ring and explore song by song. One of the things that is always fascinating and somewhat despairing is the fact that we have so little documentation and photographs from these early years. There isn't even a single photograph from inside the recording studio from any of the sessions for Ring Ring. Keep in mind that all four future members of ABBA were famous individual superstars in Sweden at that time. So I'm even more surprised. We even have photographs of the up-and-coming artists Lena Andersson and Ted Gärdestad. There is even video footage of Ted Gärdestad in the studio together with Björn and Benny. So why don't we have anything from Björn and Benny with Agneta and Frida? I think one of the reasons may be found in this quote from Björn. The things we produced for ourselves as Björn and Benny were not our primary concern. It was the sessions we produced for other acts that simply had to be done while our own stuff was recorded in our spare time. Indeed, Lena Andersson and Ted Gärdestad were two of those artists produced by Björn and Benny. That lack of focus on their own music can really be traced back during this period. For quite some time, whenever they were in the studio with the girls, it's only credited to Björn and Benny. Agneta and Frida are not even regarded as artists, but as backing vocalists, even on songs on which they were more than that. And even the photographs they chose were up to 2 years old. But during the making of Ring Ring and following the release of that album, we can see and hear how the four individual members became more and more at one unity, ABBA. As Björn added in his quote, during that long period, our career direction gradually changed, and it was always pointed at going international. Already in 1970, two crucial events happened. In April, they were in Cyprus on their first holiday together, which happened to have been their very first concert as well. In November, they went on tour as Festfolk through Sweden only, but giving them experience at how to do it better in the future. We explored both of these events in more detail on this channel. In the same year, Björn and Benny also recorded their first and only album as a duo. Agneta and Frida sang backing vocals on the lead single Hey Gamle Man, and Agneta co-wrote one of the songs called Liselott. Again, it was all in Swedish, but their aim was the international market. In 1971, Björn and Benny were at a Spanish festival to perform one of the songs from that album, but with English lyrics.
Need to feel what you're feeling.
In 1972, they were at a festival again, this time in Japan, and with Agneta and Frida performing Santa Rosa, which was the B-side of their second single, He Is Your Brother. Nothing really came out of these two events, so we can see how it was a constant back and forth between trying it internationally and keep working for the local market. They wrote and produced songs for other artists and even for film soundtracks, a softcore and a film for children. That contrast couldn't be bigger. 2 songs for these films were later chosen and resurrected for ABBA's Ring Ring album, She's My Kind of Girl and I Am Just a Girl. In 1971, Frida's first album was released, produced by Benny, and the same year Agneta's 4th album was released, produced by Björn. That album and Frida's final singles at that time featured contributions from all 4 members again. So when they were at Metronome in March 1972 to finally record that very first song in English, People Need Love, they must have realized the obvious. This is what we should do. So what did they do next? Well, in June that year, they put out a press release announcing Björn and Benny's next album as a duo, the follow-up to Lycka. 12 songs would have been part of that album, and People Need Love was one of them. By that time, Björn and Benny had recorded almost 20 songs, many of them with backing vocals from Agneta and Frida. Some of them were released as Björn and Benny singles, or even as A and B sides of future ABBA singles. But a lot of those songs would never be released to this day, and remain unreleased in the archives. They could literally put out an abandoned Lycka 2. We may talk about that and Björn and Benny's Lycka album on another video in the future. But what actually happened was that their focus changed very quickly. In the same month of that announcement, they also released People Need Love as a single, and it reached number 3 on the Swedish charts. This may very well have been the reason they changed direction. A new album by Björn and Benny with Agneta and Frida. Still, a press report from September that year said that this album will be in both Swedish and English. This approach of an album half English, half Swedish can also be found in 2 albums of Björn's previous band, the Hootenanny Singers. But in the end, ABBA did not go that way, and they only put the Swedish version of Ring Ring onto the Swedish version of that album. The only leftover of those Swedish songs was put out as a single B-side. In September 1972, the first recording session was finally credited to Björn and Benny, Agneta and Annie Fried. But that session couldn't have been less promising. They worked on 2 songs. The first one was already marked as being not good enough, I guess. It was a backing track recording for a song called Contemplation, and this seems to be the one and only outtake of the sessions for Ring Ring. Nothing else is known about this track, and it could possibly also be an early version of a later song. The second track that day was a song that was already recorded 3 weeks earlier by Björn and Benny, Rock and Roll Band. They overdubbed an e-guitar, new vocal parts and backing vocals. Björn and Benny's early version was still released in November that year as B-side of their final single as a duo. ABBA's version became the closing track of Ring Ring. Björn and Benny are not positive about this song. They said that they don't know why they recorded that one and would rather forget it. In my personal opinion, Rock and Roll Band is one of my least favorite songs. It doesn't really move me in this version. Today, Björn seems to be more at ease with it. He gave this comment for ABBA's Journey Through Time on Instagram. Hearing some of our early stuff is touching in a funny but good and forgiving way. The ambition was so high and we had so little time in the recording studio. Back in the day, they seemed to have some fondness and hope left for the song itself. Because in 1974 and 75, they performed Rock and Roll Band live in concert during their tour through Europe and Scandinavia. And this was actually one of the very few songs chosen from the Ring Ring album, along with the title track and He Is Your Brother. On the one and only bootleg version we have from this tour, the song is performed in an up-tempo, rocky version and with lead vocals by Frida. That certainly gave some new life and energy into this song and is a performance I really love. A few weeks later, after that first session, they were back in the studio. Again, 2 songs were recorded, and this time things would really start to take shape. He Is Your Brother was recorded in 5 takes. The final one was chosen as backing track. This song became ABBA's second single and reached number 1 on the Swedish radio charts. Even more crucial, I think, is the second song from those sessions. Nina, Pretty Ballerina was the first song ever to feature both Agneta and Frida on lead vocals together. This was when the ABBA sound was born. We know how Björn and Benny always tried to raise the ladies' vocal abilities to an ultimate high, and I think Agneta and Frida really put all of their energy into this song, even that early in their recording career. This is one of my top favorite songs from the album. The energy is almost unbelievable, increased even more by that upbeat piano and a wonderful, warm bass playing. The tune is very catchy, and I adore the tale of that ordinary woman literally becoming the dancing queen on the weekends. I think these are some of Björn's best lyrics in this early period. I love the variation of some of the lines between the first and second verse. Every day in the morning on her way to the office. So she's back every morning to her work at the office. 'Cause I know she's got a little secret, but they wouldn't know her little secret. Friday evening she turns out to be what her Friday night would have in store. And this tale would somehow continue in another song from that time. At some point during this period, ABBA chose an old backing track from September. You remember that soundtrack for a children's movie. Björn, Benny and Stig wrote the original Swedish version, and it was now re-recorded by ABBA with English lyrics as I Am Just a Girl. Björn remembers it very well. Stig wrote a Swedish lyric for this song, and it was the main theme in a Swedish film about Ture Sventon, a private detective in a series of popular novels, sung by one of the biggest Swedish movie stars ever, Jarl Kulle. He wasn't a great singer, so we thought we could record a better version in English with the ladies. Now looking at the lyrics, I think there are strong connections to Nina, Pretty Ballerina. She's just a face among a million faces, just another woman with no name. I am just a girl, one among the others, nothing much to say. Nina is not the girl you'd remember, not the kind of woman men would like to meet. Nina doesn't talk very often, kind of shy and uncertain. Everybody seems to think she's a bore. I Am Just a Girl is a plain and simple girl, not the special type in any way. Intriguingly, both songs were put together back to back as A and B side of the Austrian single release. I Am Just a Girl is a beautiful, old-fashioned number featuring all 4 members of ABBA on joint vocals, which is quite rare and a wonderful sound. And the music they recorded for Ring Ring, the compositions they created around this time, would keep to have that promising high quality. Written and recorded around this period with no specific recording date is another personal highlight from the album. Another Town, Another Train. Just listening to this song stripped down to its piano arrangement, the way it was composed by Benny, reveals all its glory even more. This version was done by Mark Pendleton. You can listen to it here on YouTube on his great channel, ABBA Piano Covers. The song has such a beautiful atmosphere. Like I Am Just a Girl, it is one of those beautiful, stripped down tracks on Ring Ring, acoustic folk style, with a breezy production on the backing track and wonderful vocals. Our time is running out for today, but I'd like to close with this quote from Björn. Right now we can't imagine anything else than working together. We feel that we found a new style, a fresh and youthful style, said Björn at some point, with the prospect of putting the girls even more in the foreground. Suddenly, by the end of 1972, Björn, Benny and Stig were invited to write a song for Sweden's pre-selection for the Eurovision Song Contest, and they still had to finish half of their album. Next time, we will explore the remaining recording sessions for Ring Ring in 1973 and the final album as a whole, the songs in sequence, the album's artwork, the promotion and aftermath. Until then, you can watch or rewatch more videos about this time on this channel. I mentioned ABBA's first concert in Cyprus 1970 and their first concert tours between 1970 and 1973. You will also find dedicated videos about the making of People Need Love and Ring Ring, as well as the story behind ABBA's participation in that pre-selection for Eurovision. If you enjoyed this video and want other people to learn about ABBA's first album, you can put thumbs up and leave a comment. That is really how YouTube's algorithm works, and it helps these videos immensely to be seen by more people. I hope to see you for part 2 when we continue and conclude our exploration of the Ring Ring album. Alright, until then, hey do!